Okay, the most common question that I receive since I've started doing what we've been doing the last several years is, how do you find the deals that you find, and what do you invest in? So let's talk about or discuss first how we find those deals. So we do research every day looking for a very small box. I find that if you do the same thing over and over again and know it better than anyone else, you know how to spot a great deal when it comes out. And that's simply what we do. So we will look at every national website. We'll look at everything that comes on the market every day on all of those websites. So your LoopNet, your CoStar, your Crexi, even Craigslist. We've done research on Craigslist looking for deals. At this point, with the deal flow that we've had, we actually have brokers that will call us ahead of time as well and say, hey, this individual's very motivated. We know that you close and that HJH will close the deal. Do you want to have a first shot at negotiating with them? We really like that because we get there without having to compete with a lot of other people. We're doing research every day. John Post is my research analyst that sits across the hallway. When he comes into the office each morning, he is going to look at absolutely everything that's come on the market nationwide on any of the major websites in the last 24 hours or since he left the night before. He will plow through all those websites in the first couple hours of that time, and then when he's done with that, he'll start watching the market as things are hitting the market. So he is looking every day. He is looking at between 800 and 1,500 properties a day. And that's where our filtration process starts, at 800 to 1,500 properties a day. We have a small little box that we play in, which I'll go through in just a second, but 2 to 6 of those properties will show up every day, in which we'll be able to delineate that somebody has a high level of motivation. And I'll show you how we do that again in just a moment. So 2 to 6 properties in any given day. From that, I will get that list from Mr. Post and I will review those. I will filter through a good percentage of those because of a number of reasons. Could be the price per square foot's just out of a range that we're willing to pay for a property. Could be a number of other reasons. We don't like the location, which is always an important thing in real estate. So out of that 2 to 6 properties in any given week, we will write 3 to 5 purchase contracts. And I've written PSA here because that's a purchase and sale agreement that we traditionally use to make our offers. And I will point out that this is significantly different than the rest of the marketplace. Everyone else in the marketplace will write an LOI, which is a letter of intent. It's not binding. You can kind of waffle in and out of whether or not you do it. It's an easier deal. Well, I want to stand out when I make my offer on a property. And so by having a fully signed and executed purchase contract, it puts me ahead of all of these flimsy LOIs in the negotiation process because I am real. I am something that if they sign it right then and there, they know that they have that they've got a contract and that they can sell. They don't have to wait weeks for attorneys to go through things, to write up contracts, to go back and forth there. They can make the decision right away if they choose to. So 800 to 1,500 properties today, 2 to 6 that fit our narrow little box that we like to play in that show motivation, 3 to 5 purchase contracts in any given week, so 3 to 5 PSAs in a week. This is 2 to 6 per day. And out of those 3 to 5 purchase contracts in a week, 1 in 16 are motivated enough to sell it to us at, in this case, 15, 20, 25% under retail value for the property. So let's take a look at what we do play in. Has at least 30% credit tenancy. So ask, what is a credit tenant? So a credit tenant is a tenant that has at least a BBB minus rating or better on their credit rating. So when they go to the bank, if you notice in your stock market companies, etc., they've been given a credit rating based upon the debt that they have out there and their likelihood to pay their debt. Investment grade credit tenants have a BBB minus rating or better. Now, if you're investing in the stock market, those are considered to be fairly secure investments to go into. No guarantees though. For example, Blockbuster Video was an investment grade credit tenant a year and a half before they went bankrupt and out of business completely, because they didn't see that buying Netflix for $50 million was a very smart thing to go do. And instead, that little bitty company Netflix was part of taking Blockbuster Video down. So again, whether you're investing in the stock market or you're investing in commercial real estate, I want to point out that there are no guarantees. However, you want to play the odds. I like to play the odds. I'm a numbers guy and I want to see us do extremely well. I'm going to look for a building that has either is completely occupied by one of those credit tenants, or 30% or more of the building is occupied by one of those credit tenants, so they're an anchor within that space that I can count on. At least they are going to pay their rent, even if Sally's nail salon doesn't decide to. I need to have at least 30% credit tenancy, and I want that credit tenant to have at least 5 years left on the lease. Now, why is that important? Well, the most important thing that I do every day is protect people's money. It leads our decision-making process from what we're looking for to acquire to whether we're renegotiating leases and how tough we get in that negotiation process. My job first and foremost is to protect people's capital and then grow that capital within the commercial real estate. By having a credit tenant in the space, it gives me a level of confidence and stability that I can count on to the extent that we can, because there's no guarantees, but I can count on that I'm going to have income coming in on that property and therefore can pay a return to our investors while we're in it. So I'm looking for at least 30% credit tenancy, at least 5 years left on the lease. So if you watch the cap rate video that I put on earlier, along with net operating income, you'll know what I'm going to say next. If you haven't watched that, stop now, go watch that, because it's very important for what I'm going to say next. Did you stop? Okay, if you're still with me, let's go. So I've got 800 to 1,500 properties a day that we're looking for. 2 to 6 a day fit our box. So 30% credit tenancy, 5 years left on a lease. Well, our box with that in it is typically priced between a 7 and a 7 3/4 cap rate when a real estate broker brings it to market. So a very knowledgeable real estate broker meets with his client, they look at the property, and that broker goes, okay, you've got at least 30% credit tenancy, you got 5 years or more left on the lease. I think it should be priced somewhere between a 7 and 7 3/4 cap rate, okay? When we see that property priced at an 8 1/4 cap rate or above, we know there's motivation. There's got to be some reason why this seller is bringing to market something below market rates immediately. Tells me that they have a need, they have benefits that they're seeking sooner as opposed to later. Because remember, if they're patient and they price it in here, they're probably going to sell it somewhere in this price point or very, very close to this price point. But they have already come to market above that point. So 2 to 6 a day are at 8 1/4 cap or above. And that's current market conditions as it plays out today. And we know this, again, because we're looking at every single property that comes on the market every day. Now, there are some exceptions to the 7 to 7 3/4 cap. If you live in the Los Angeles area, there are additional pressures on property, etc., that go on that drive these cap rates down. But if you get out of those additional pressure areas and just look at the rest of our country, then 7 to 7 3/4 cap is typically where that comes to market. When we see it 8 1/4, we say, great, you have some level of motivation. If I like that, we'll write 3 to 5 purchase offers in a week, and we will make offers in the 10 1/4 to 11% range, but ultimately it's our desire to be in the high 9 caps, low 10s. So let's give an example of that. If you watched the cap rate video earlier, if you still haven't watched it, again, this would be a good time to go stop and go back and look at it. And if you are still with me, then let's move forward. If you go back to the previous example from the cap rate video, the net operating income on that example was $70,000. So we had $100,000 worth of income or revenue. We had $30,000 worth of expenses, which gave us an NOI of $70,000 a year. This is net operating income. If Mr. Post, as he's doing his research, or I'm doing research, or a broker brings something to me, when they bring it to me, if the net operating income is $70,000 and they have it priced at a 7 cap, then the purchase price that they are asking is going to be $1 million. Well, we don't want that. That's not showing motivation to us as the market conditions are today. We've already stated we want an 8.25 cap or above. So an 8.25 cap on $70,000 is going to be, and you figure this number by just take $70,000, divide it by 0.0825, and you'll get a number somewhere. So it's going to be an 8.25 cap. Is going to be somewhere in the range of $848,000. It probably keeps on repeating some 4s and 8s or something like that. You can do the math. It's probably fairly close to that number. When we find that property with $70,000 worth of net operating income at an 8.25 cap, and it's being offered then at $850,000 or less, that's a big waving, hey, we are motivated. We would like to sell to you HJH Investments. We'd like to sell to somebody and we want to do that sooner as opposed to later. Okay, that works. So I'm going to make an offer on this property. If I like its location, I like its price per square foot otherwise, I'm going to come in and make an offer somewhere around a 10.25 to a 10.5 cap rate. So on $70,000, if I'm looking at a 10.25 cap rate, I'm going to guess I'm somewhere around $670,000 that I'm going to make an offer on this property. So I make the offer at $670, knowing full well I want to get into the high 9s, low 10s. Well, in the marketplace today, I've decided this specific property, I have to get it at a 10 cap or better. So we will negotiate this property, and the only way I'll buy this property is if I can get this specific property at a 10 cap. So we'll negotiate that deal. If I can get the purchase price to a 10 cap, which is $700,000, I will do that deal. Now, how do we convince somebody who is already motivated and shown that they're motivated to get all the way up here and be very, very motivated? The answer is we don't most of the time. If you remember before, only 1 in 16 times are people motivated enough to sell it to me in this price point. So we do some things though to help the process go better. When I make a purchase offer, oftentimes we make that purchase offer within 30 minutes of a property hitting the market. So Mr. Post will see the property hit the market. He will say, hey Corey, you need to take a look at this property. I will look at the property and go, wow, you're right, this is a great property. And we will submit a purchase offer within 30 minutes, 45 minutes of it hitting the market. You cannot steal in slow motion. I've learned this from my predecessors. So we want to get there as quickly as humanly possible to be the solution to the benefits that the seller is looking for. So when I submit that purchase offer, the following things happen. I'll send over a signed purchase contract. I will send over a list of names and phone numbers of real estate brokers that we've done business with. I will also send over a list of properties that we've acquired. And as of the date of this filming, that was about $157 million worth of property over the last 4.5 years. I'll send that over so we have validity when it comes over to the other side. And then immediately as we're sending that over, I will make a phone call to the real estate broker and explain to that broker what's about to happen to them. Explain to them that they need to make contact with at least 2 of those brokers before they present my offer to their client, so that it's not coming from me, it's coming from people who have done business with me in the past. Once I've given them that information, given them an idea too as to where I really need to end up, I don't want it to be a guessing match. I want them to know that they can win on the other side. Once I provided them with that information, now they can go to their client and make that presentation. Everything goes well, we get the deal. Then sometime within the next week or so, the attorneys will go back and forth and finish up the contract, and we will have a signed purchase contract. And now, because the most important thing to me is to protect investor capital, I have to start really figuring out why I got this thing so inexpensively. And that's all for this session. The next session we'll go through is our due diligence process.